And welcome to the Priceless Podcast. Maybe you are sad right now because this is the last episode before the summer break. But don't be too much sad because we're going to come back, or I'm going to come back with the podcast, but also some guests after the summer, probably in September, with another season. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. If you want to listen to the audio version only, you can do so by using your favorite podcast app and searching for the Priceless Podcast. If you want to give a donation, and trust me, I really need your donations to continue this work, so please help me if you can and send a donation, and you can find the link in the podcast description, as well as other links that are either connected to the Priceless webpage or this interview. So today I'm here with a new guest and we are traveling to Hungary, and he has a very tricky name, so I'm going to do my best to pronounce his last name. His first name is not so unusual, but his last name for me it is. So his name is Mario Danin-Nagy.
Well done, yeah.
Okay, good. It was a long pause, like, did I do it right? Yeah, well, Hungarian is a very tricky language.
Yeah, and interestingly, in Hungary, my first name is more unusual. So Here is the other way around. People are more baffled by the first name, and my second name is more usual here.
Okay, I have to ask you, did the kids harass you with calling you Super Mario?
All the time.
All the time. Okay, that's what I thought. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to call you Super Mario.
Okay. Although the new generation, they don't know what Super Mario is anymore. But when I was a kid, and even in my 20s, I had the Super Mario all the time. So, but that's a nice thing, you know. It's better than being called Rubbish Mario or
yes, definitely. Yeah. It sounds more like a hero, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And we live in a time where people like heroes, so so today we're going to bring you a little bit of a different story, because all my guests until now were people of faith, but now it's a little bit different, and you'll know why during the interview. But I just thought that it's a very interesting thing to talk about, and I think it's also very important. But before we go into the topic and into the conversation, I would ask you if you could introduce yourself the way you would like the audience to know you.
So my name is Mario, as you already know, and at the moment I work as a soft skill trainer and a coach in Hungary, Budapest. And before that, apart from a short period at a multinational company, I was working as a pastor in the countryside of Hungary, and so that was my first vocation, and that ended 5 years ago. So this is a kind of a new phase in my life still, even though it's been 5 years, but it was a very important 6 years before that. So maybe that's an important part of my identity. I'm also gay, a gay man, more specifically cisgendered gay man. That's what I thought of saying.
And that's perfect. And you also answered my second question about your sexual orientation and gender identity. So you are doing very well.
I learned it from the previous podcast. That is what I'm supposed to do.
Good that there are previous podcasts. Imagine you were the first. Well, what is your experience of growing up as a gay man?
Yeah, it wasn't so easy. I think in general it's not very easy in Hungary. Well, probably nowhere else is it easy, but in Hungary it's relatively difficult in general. And also my family wasn't particularly liberal, so I grew up in the general aura and the agreement of society that being gay is disgusting, it's horrible, it's a sinful thing, it's so gay people are supposed to be beaten up or even killed, and that's all right. And so even though I didn't know it as a very small child, there were lots of signs that I was already on this side of the game, but the conscious realization only came at the age of 15. But I remember that the messages were already there, that, you know, just don't be gay, it's horrible, it's disgusting, people are gonna hate you, and so on and so forth. So this kind of fear has always been with me. And I think this is part of the reason why it took me until I was 15 and my hormones were raging, and I just couldn't lie to myself anymore that I'm gay. And it took me such a long time, relatively long time, to face this truth, because it was so scary. I didn't want to be gay because it was just something you don't want to be. Yeah, so growing up like that wasn't terribly easy, but I also have to say that I was really lucky, because I had friends around me who were supporting from the very first moment that I realized this, and so I was never alone with the conscious realization that I'm gay, or I like men. And later my family also became supportive for the most part.
Yeah, that's so amazing to have friends. I think it's one of the most important things for, well, most of the people that I talked to, you know, having someone who is supportive and understanding and loves us nevertheless, even if when they find out. And that's really something and amazing. So what is your faith history, faith background? I mean, as much as I know, because we had a conversation, faith wasn't always a part of your life. So can you maybe say a little bit about the beginnings or the history of your faith journey?
Yeah, so as I said, my family wasn't liberal, but we also weren't very religious. Like we didn't often go to church. We only went to church not even at Christmas or Easter. We only went to church when we visited my granddad. He was a pastor too, like I became one later, and so that's how I grew up. It wasn't really part of my life, but at the same time I was quite spiritually open, or I like to explore things spiritually quite early on. So even at the age of 15, I was reading books by Maria Szepes, who was one of these esoteric teachers in Hungary. I don't really endorse her teachings now, but you know that I was very interested in these things, and I wouldn't say I would have professed to belong to any mainstream religions, but I was just generally open. And at the age of 16, I became a Christian. Like I went to this English Christian camp where I got saved or converted or said the prayer or whatever, and it was a really important turning point of my life, like really transformative, and it determined the next 14 years of my life quite heavily. So I became a devout Christian at the age of 16. And this was only 1 year after I realized I was gay. And so the two realizations were very close to each other. And for a short period of time, I didn't see the contradiction between them. So I thought, what's the problem? I'm gay, and I love Jesus now, and I want to serve him, and I want to serve God. So it took me about 1 year to hear the message from the church that no, baby, this isn't okay. You can't be gay and Christian at the same time. You have to choose one or the other. And for whatever reason, I made the choice that, okay, then I'll be a Christian. And I became very, very pious, and serving God was really the most important thing in my life. So I prayed every day. I read the Bible all the time. I knew passages by heart, and there were summers, I remember, when I helped in 7 or 8 camps. That meant like the whole summer I was in Christian camps and doing ministry, and I thought it was so important. So even before going to seminary to study theology, this was like the most important thing in my life. And I remember I was also trying to leverage my friendships, because or any kind of contacts that I had. I always had the urge that I have to talk about Jesus. I have to convince them about this and tell them about this. So and this wasn't it wasn't just a compulsion. I really thought that this is the best thing that happened to me. The love of God, it's unconditional, and it means so much to me, and I just wanted to share it with others. So yeah, and then I became I went to seminary right after high school, because I thought this was like, I had an experience of calling from God. I felt that he really called me to be a pastor, and this is what I should do, and this is what I've been gifted to do. Like, it looked like I had all the skills and the abilities to do it. And there I was. I went to seminary, studied, and I was so serious about my faith that I also went to study in England, in Oxford, for 1 year, where I was studying apologetics, Christian apologetics. So basically how to defend the faith from other religions and from the gay propaganda even. And I quite sincerely were doing this, because I internalized the whole thought that, yeah, okay, I am gay. At the time, I thought the reason is mostly that it must be a psychological disturbance in me. Maybe something happened in my childhood that caused this. And that this is just my cross. In Christianity we say you have your cross, and that kind of suffering makes your faith stronger and enables God to work even more powerfully through you. So that's what that's what I believed about this situation, that I was also gay and believed. And it's also important to mention here that I never had, in this period, I didn't have any relationships. So I wasn't living a double life in that sense. I lived a double life on the inside, but not really on the other side, on the outside. I was celibate, so to say.
What happened for you that this celibate life didn't work anymore for you? Or this kind of life?
Yeah.
Living in the closet?
Yeah, so this all started when I became an actual minister, a pastor in this town where I lived, which was a wonderful time of my life in many ways. Like, I loved that church community, and I received a lot of love from them too. They loved me. But one thing that made it almost unbearable, I would say, and it's probably not an exaggeration, because I was writing in my diary very often, this can't go on like this, it can't go on like this, was that even though they loved me, every time I experienced that they loved me, I had this inner thought that they only love me because they don't know I'm gay. So I never really believed that they loved me. And that was that was a difficult. That's a difficult place to live. When you don't. I did receive a lot of affection and care from my community, but I didn't let it in because I had this wall. I was closeted, and I thought that this secret was separating me from everyone else around me. Not everyone else. I did have some friends even at that time who knew that I was gay, but by and large from the community where I was living. And this was my initial motivation, actually, that I just didn't want to live like this. I didn't want to live in secret. I hated that I always felt ashamed, and I felt like I'm going to be found out, So that's what made it really difficult in the first place. And another part of this was that, and by the way, I was ready to live a celibate life at that time, but then I just would have wanted to be able to be open about this and to say, well, yes, I'm gay, I'm attracted to men, but I'm celibate, like the Catholic priests, and that would have been fine with me. Another aspect, what made me want to leave was that at the age of 26, I fell in love with someone, and that was such a mind-blowing experience, even though he didn't love me back, and I never even told him that I loved him, but it was like a very, very strong emotion, and that kind of dismantled my theory about being gay. Because, before that I thought it was something sick, it was something distorted and tainted and so on and so forth. But then when I felt that I loved this person so much, I could die for him. So this isn't something horrible. This isn't something sick. It's something very beautiful and natural to me. And then for all the theological notions that I had, they just came tumbling down because my personal experience was so different to what I wanted to believe. So these were the negative forces that drove me out.
Yeah. Well, in a way you say negative, but at the same time, when you talk about it, I also see the beauty, the beauty in it, because this is what kind of makes us come out. Because I think that one thing that straight people don't understand when they ask, why do you have to come out, or why do you have to talk about it? Is this something that I think most of us experience, this uncertainty? Would I lose all these people around me with just this one fact, which is just one part of me, and that is the fact that I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm trans, or, whatever might be my letter. And this is, I like that you mentioned that, because I think it's such an important truth why we have to come out and why it doesn't feel good living, and also the fear that you mentioned of, what if
and
it's
this is something,
found out?
And this is something you can't play out in your head. You just can't tell yourself, well, surely they would love me if I told them, because if there is no proof, you will never be sure, and you just have to try it out, and the only way to try it out is to come out. So it's a huge risk taking, I think. At least for me it was, and I think for most people it is.
Yeah. At the end, you left the church. What happened that you left the church?
Yeah, so I had already started discovering a new version of Christianity, or to me it was a new version, at least. Of course, it's an ancient version of it. It was the contemplative tradition. So I started to meditate, and in the contemplative tradition, I heard the saying, and it was absolutely shocking to me, that whatever is allowed to be. So whereas my previous very evangelical theological mindset was that there is a plan, and reality has to be adjusted to the plan. I mean, God wants something with your life. He has a will with the world. And if something goes wrong, for example, I am born gay or I become gay, that has to be adjusted to the plan. And my whole life was about this adjusting. Whereas the contemplative tradition taught that no, you have reality, and that's actually God's will, because it's otherwise it wouldn't be that way. And we have to adjust our plans and our thoughts and our notions to reality. So they always started with experience. And therefore they had this philosophy that whatever is allowed to be. So this is important as a background, that I started meditating and practicing this in the sense that every morning, or pretty much every morning, I sat down for half an hour, 1 hour, and was meditating and looking at the world with these eyes. And slowly but surely, I started to look at myself with these eyes. That if the world is allowed to be the way it is, then maybe I am allowed to be the way I am. And I should not force myself into some kind of plan or some kind of blueprint. So this is what gave me strength and courage in the whole process. However, it didn't happen overnight. So it took me years, even with meditation and with this whole thought that maybe I should come out. There were other experiences too that showed me that when I open up to someone, then that person opens up to me too, and suddenly there's this connection which is not possible if I keep this wall up. And even as a pastor, I recognized that as long as I was hiding so much, people were also hiding from me. This was something that was very non-verbal, and it happened in a meta communicational level, but it was really it could be felt after I decided to come out. Before I came out, but I already had made the decision, I already noticed that people started to open up to me much more. So I think I became a better pastor, actually, by coming out. So trying to make this story concise. What happened? I made the decision that I wanted to come out, or at least not keep it a secret, and shared it with my colleagues. And I also, at that time, I also told them, this was in 2015, I think. I also told them that I'm ready to stay celibate, but I just wanted to go to the church leadership, to the national church leadership, and to come out to them and to ask for permission that I become open about this as the first Reformed pastor in our church, who would stay a pastor, because I read the law, in the church regulations, and it said that if you just have the homosexual inclination or something like that, if you have that, that's not a sin. It's just if you live it out and if you propagate and so on and so forth. So I said, that's cool. I'm celibate, so it shouldn't be a problem. So we went to the church leadership with the support of my colleagues. But the church leadership wasn't so happy about this decision. So it was a really difficult experience for me, because what I encountered there was just plain rejection, and I felt like they didn't care at all what I had to say. I was faced with the dilemma or ultimatum that, okay, you either shut up or you leave. And I said, but that's the church law, but we don't care about the church law. You know, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. You're the church leaders, but you don't care about the church law. Anyway, they didn't care about that. They said, you know, or he said that, you know, don't you think that we are going to protect you if someone tells you fucking faggot or something like that? And I was like, okay, so you're not going to protect me. And it was all quite surreal in a way, you know, to see the anger in this person and to see how he probably wouldn't agree with this, but in retrospect, I would say that he or the church leadership seemed so afraid of me. You know, why are you so afraid, guys? I'm just this gay guy from the southern ends. What's there to be afraid of? But they seemed to be so afraid, and so they reacted really, really aggressively. So I was sent away with this, you know, like, shut up, or this isn't possible. You can't be gay and a church pastor. And so then came a long period of just thinking about this and trying to find a solution. Finally, I made up my mind that no, I'm gonna go on this way, and I kept telling people, coming out to more and more church members, and I also went to these meditation retreats, and even there I was encouraged by my own experience that, you know, it's gonna be all right. I mean, whatever happens, wherever you go, you know, it's going to be all right. So that's what I did. And it took me about another year before I left the church. You know, gradually I came out to a lot of people, and we had a quite lovely or touching goodbye or farewell experience. So I experienced, from the most part, I experienced acceptance and love and just sorrow that I'm leaving, and most people were very supportive. Of course, it would have been really different, you know, if I had insisted that I stay, because then there would have been a lot of resistance, I think. But like this, you know, most people were just sad that I leave. There were, of course, voices who were trying to heal me and convert me, and they were praying for me, and they wanted to stop me in this whole process. But I had made up my mind, and it was very, very clear that I had to leave. It was a life and death question for me, I think, at that point. So I left in 2016. Yeah, it was almost exactly 5 years ago.
And you went on a very different journey from a pastor, a person of faith, to a person where you don't feel close to Christianity or can't connect to Christianity. Can you tell us a little bit about this journey?
Yeah, actually, I just read an interview with that was taken with me 2 years ago, and there I remember I still said, I didn't say that I'm not a Christian, but already at that time I found it difficult to find my place theologically and sociologically and all those aspects in the church. Today, I would say that I'm not a Christian by any definitions of Christianity. So that's why I wouldn't say I'm a Christian. And I don't read the Bible, and I wouldn't profess to belong to this religion right now, which sounds very scary, I know, for a lot of Christians. But it's not so scary, actually, to me. How did this happen? There are parts that I can't explain. Like, for example, part of my faith kind of disappeared overnight. Like it was very unexpected that I had this really strong and living and fervent faith, and I left, and in a matter of weeks I felt like I had lost one of my senses. You know, I was listening to sermons and they didn't touch me at all. Or I went to churches and saw the crucifix and I was like, oh, this is very nice art. But I wasn't like touched by the story, by the narrative anymore. And this also isn't why the reason probably wasn't that I had read so much liberal theology, because I didn't read an awful lot of it. So this is the part that I can't really explain. One explanation, of course, would be that God has abandoned me and given me over to Satan, and that's why I lost my faith, or this sense of faith.
Yeah.
No, I can absolutely understand if someone believes that. And I did honestly consider the option. Is this what's happening now to me? Is this something evil, or is it something from the devil? Although I already had problems with believing in the devil, I still don't really think I believe in him or her or it. But from the inner experience, and this is again, you know, the same kind of dilemma that can't really be resolved. How do you approach the world? You know, if you approach the world with, okay, there is a plan, there is a theological framework, and according to that, what's happening to me is that I've been given over to the devil. I can't really refute that, because that's your framework, that's your mindset. But from my perspective, this is, okay, what am I experiencing now? Am I experiencing decay and depression and so on and so forth? No, I would say that what I've been experiencing in the past 5 years, is much more of a liberation. And I feel lighter, and I'm not saying that I always feel happier, because there are some things that I miss from that part of my life. But my experience is that it's something good. It was a good decision. So yeah, and so that there was this inexplicable part of the fading away of my faith. And there was also the intellectual part. You know, I found a lot more, probably I became a bit more skeptical, and I found some other explanations to the world more fitting to my experience. And reading, and it was also very liberating to be able to read, you know, any kind of thoughts and to let them in, you know, because before that I always had my guards up, you know, like, oh, this is a liberal guy, or this is an atheist, and, you know, this is Buddhist, I have to protect my faith. That's what I was trained for in Oxford, you know. and so that was also quite liberating. So the first thing that I lost was this sense of or maybe the word lost is not very good. Maybe I should say transformed. I think I have the hardest time going to a Reformed church, the Protestant church, because and I think I've only been like 2 times since I left. Probably because that's like the strongest. That represents the most strongly what I wanted to leave behind. And I did go to Catholic church for quite a long time. Actually, we went with my boyfriend at the time. There was quite an open community not far from where we used to live, and we even went together quite often. But after a while, even the Catholic, the Catholic teachings were somehow not speaking to me anymore. I couldn't really find any solace or encouragement in them. Yeah, so what remained was just a kind of openness, and that I would say that I'm a big fan of reality. You know, I'm a worshipper of reality, and I wanna get as close to it as possible. And of course you could say that instead of reality, if it fits you better, then you can say God. You know, because I think that's what he is, or she is, or it is. It's reality with capital R. That's what Yahweh actually means, like the one who is, you know. So in that sense, I don't think it's a very heretic thought. But the more religious things, and it's not only Christianity. You know, when I hear very religious stuff from Hinduism or Buddhism, I'm also very cautious with that. Like, okay, stop. I don't. What's the meaning behind that? Because it just feels too I don't know, messy or unreal to me.
Yeah. I can connect with so many things that you are saying. I mean, I told you a little bit about me, but right now I don't want to take over your story, so I'm going to refrain from doing so.
But I'd be interested, like at least a little bit.
Well, I already had a guest, and she said, I really want to interview you, so she will interview me. At some point. Maybe this will be a start for the next season. A good start to kind of introduce myself and that people know about my story. But many things that you're saying are so close to my heart. And it's so hard to look back and see how much the faith was, and that's what I hear with you, was connected with burden and fear. And I can connect very well to this feeling of liberation and freedom, and just being free to ask any question, to explore whatever. How was it for you to actually, you know, maybe it's this question is coming very much from my own experience, so I don't know if it's connected to anything with your journey, but how was it to get away from this fear? And was it a difficult task, or, you know, was it scary at times where you gave yourself this freedom and liberation from all these, all the things that the church says that you shouldn't do?
From a faith perspective, it wasn't so difficult. And I think the reason is because even though with all the evangelical, I wanted to say rubbish, but let's not call it rubbish. The evangelical notions of God and faith, I still had, I think, something very healthy, like a really healthy heritage, that God is that God loves unconditionally, and in that sense, this might sound crazy, but I consider my losing of faith a leap of faith. So, you know, or the way I said it was, I believe in God so much that I allow myself not to believe in him, because I'm kind of not afraid, you know, that, you know, if he really is there, or she or it is there, and is loving so unconditionally, then I don't have to be afraid to call them the right name, or or do the right things, because they will love me anyway. They don't need me to believe in them. And they will allow me not to believe in them. So this sounds a little bit crazy, maybe for some people, but in that sense, it was a leap of faith for me. What caused me a lot of fear, or what made it difficult, was that it was more the existential, sociological part of leaving my vocation behind. You know, as a pastor, I had a place to stay. You know, they paid for my rent, they paid for my bills, and I didn't have any other qualifications. So when at the age of 30, I made the decision that, okay, I'm going to just leave. I had to answer questions like, okay, so what are you going to do? Where are you going to live? How are you going to pay your bills? And that was one thing that caused me a lot of stress and fear. And also it was a great time of trust in providence, or that the things will work out fine for me, and they did. And the other aspect was what made it difficult, I think, was, which I hadn't realized before, but the sociological aspect, that I was a very respected member of the community before that. Like I was, Reverend Pastor Mario Danyanod. So, I always had a place in the first row in every event, and most people knew me in the town. And then, I left all that behind. A lot of people started to think badly about me, and I came to the big city where I was nobody, and no one knew me, and I started to work for a multinational company where I was the last on the last level. All my bosses were younger than me, and it was just really it was difficult for my pride. I realized that I had which I hadn't seen before. I had this pride of being a pastor, being someone important. So I had to redefine who I am, and that was quite difficult too. And what am I doing with my life?
What about now? Yeah.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to say that it's still under process. So I still haven't, or under progress. It's still, I don't say that I figured out who I am and what am I doing with my life. I'm still doing it like every day, but it's not so scary right now.
The way I learned for myself, but also from others, it seems like it never stops. Like it's an ongoing process. So I think when we are younger, we dream about this moment when we'll be stable and we know what we're gonna do, and it's just gonna be till we go into our pension and just enjoy our old days. But yeah, it's not like that. Sorry, young people, if we disappoint you, but that's the way it is. When you look back at your time when you were a pastor and a man of faith, how does it feel?
Yeah, I have three thoughts to this. All pastors answer all questions with three thoughts. Every sermon has to have 3 points.
So you still are a pastor at heart. That's something that didn't get lost.
It looks like it looks like it. So the first emotion that comes up is gratitude. Like I received so much love and care in that period of my time from the church, and I'm a little bit sorry, I'm getting emotional here, but I'm sorry that I couldn't really accept it at that time, and because I believed it so firmly that I'm not acceptable, and so even though I was shown so much love, I didn't believe it, and I think and right now I'm sorry that I couldn't believe it more. If I could go back, I would do that. Another aspect when I think back is I feel a bit of shame too. Why do I feel shame? Do you know this track by R.E.M.? It's called "Losing My Religion." Do you know? And there he's singing, "Oh no, I said too much." And that's something I kind of regret. I said such big things and taught people about things I didn't have a clue about. About life, death, the meaning of life, God. Every day or every week at least, I stood in front of hundreds of people and I told them about these. And right now it feels a little odd, like Mario, 20-something year old, and telling people what the meaning of life is. It was just there are some sermons that I would like to take back and say that, sorry guys, I want to just don't take me that seriously. I was just holding on to it. At the same time, it's also nice to see that that some people, that it meant a lot to a lot of people. And even today they come or write to me and they say, oh, when you said this, it really helped me, or it made an impact on my life, or I wouldn't be where I am now if it hadn't been for this. So at that point, again, I'm very grateful that there was a time of my life when I could maybe give to a lot of people.
Thank you so much for the vulnerability you are willing to, show through sharing what it means to you, and that looking back, it is a painful thing, to see how you were not accepted as who you are, and that you thought yourself that you were not good enough. And I just, I'm kind of, in the middle, because I want to encourage you, because I know that people always do the best that they can at a certain time. And I sincerely believe that you did your best, that to your knowledge at that time. And of course, looking back and seeing things that we wish we did differently, or like I look back and then cringe at some things that I said, that I did, it's actually something where we should be happy, because it's a sign of we grew, we evolved.
Yeah.
And, we again want to do the best we can today. So thank you.
Maybe if we listen to this podcast 20 years from now, we'll be like, oh, Mario, we just talk so much rubbish there.
It's not, for me, it's not going to take me 20 years. I'm going to listen to it when I edit it, and I'm going to say, oh my God, why did you say that?
But you have the power to cut it out, at least. Unlike me.
I do, but I'm trying my best not that this doesn't take, over, and, just leave it and say, okay, I'm human. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And I hope I'll grow and do these podcasts better. But I'm doing my best I can when I can, considering the circumstances and how I feel a certain day. So, but today I feel good. So if I'm not happy with this, I'm going to be very worried. So, so you mentioned already at one moment that there are things that you miss from, this whole church setting and while you were a pastor. So what are the things that you miss?
One thing I miss is community. Like right now, I don't really belong to any communities. Like I have a lot of friends, but even I had my birthday not long ago, and I gathered these 15 people together, and I loved them all separately, but they didn't really connect to each other, or as much as they could, they did, of course, but it was obvious that they don't belong to the same community. And that's such a different feeling, when you have I think the closest that I experience is with my work, but even there we don't meet that often. So community, these youth groups that I was leading, and the church, in some Sunday morning you look around and I knew everyone, and they knew each other. And so that's one thing. Another thing connected to this is singing together with other people. Like I sometimes sing here at home, but it's so different when you sing together with 200 people. It's just a wonderful feeling. So that's something I miss. And sometimes I miss the sense of the religious worship, that I don't. It's so good to bow before a God, and to just to give all your devotion. And right now there is no God that I bow before in that sense. Of course I'm trying to be humble before reality, and I try to, or when I think about reality, I do think that I have to bow before reality, but it's a little bit more impersonal and more of a concept. Whereas when you have, okay, here is Jesus, and I love you, Jesus, and that kind of stuff, that's a different feeling. And that's something I sometimes miss. And when I get into trouble, I still see this automatic reaction, like, oh God, help, oh Jesus, or maybe I should help. I should start praying for this person, even though I don't regularly pray anymore. But that time I'm like, oh, what the hell? I'm gonna pray now, just because it feels good. And yeah, so I think these three, you see, again, three things, always three things.
You just can't get away from that. Yeah, it's ingrained.
Absolutely.
Well, what would you say to young people, or, well, I don't know why I say young people. That's not important. It doesn't have to do anything with age. So what would you say to the people that, either started their journey of questioning their faith, or are already, somewhere along the process of questioning their faith? What would you tell them as an encouragement?
That's a difficult one, and a lot of responsibility. What I say here, maybe it's something before I answer this question. I want to make it very clear that I don't think that faith is necessarily bad for anyone, and I don't want to talk anyone out of their faith. And on the contrary, I think it can be such a great an important force and help in our lives. And so the last thing I would do is talk someone out of their faith. And also what makes the answering of this question difficult is that if someone has different kinds of foundations in their faith, for example, they don't have the foundation that God loves us unconditionally. Instead, they have the foundation that God is angry with us, or he will punish you. Then it's very, very difficult to tell that person, but just don't be afraid. Just go ahead. Just explore, because it's terrifying to them. It's more terrifying than it was for me. But what I can say, I think, as an encouragement is even though it's gonna be scary, it's gonna be tiresome, it's gonna be difficult to find your own way, it does pay off. I think it gives you a sense of liberation, and God is the God of liberation, isn't he? I mean, he rescued the people from Egypt and so on and so forth. So I think if we honestly ask questions, then we are on the right path, and yeah, so that's what I would say, and also try to start from reality and experience, and not from the blueprint and what you should think about reality, but try and adjust your thoughts to what is there, and not the other way around. But of course, it's very individual. What would I say to someone who comes to me? First, I would just listen to them. What's their story, because it depends on what I would answer.
Yes. Well, you certainly, I like the answer that you gave. I think that it's amazing, and I see so much wisdom in what you just said and how you approached this question. I think it's a perfect answer. So thank you. And, I just want to let the people know that they're not alone, that there are many people who are asking questions, especially because faith was so much combined with fear and pressure for so many people. And at this point, I want to actually suggest to people who are questioning and thinking about their faith, I found the podcast, the Liturgists podcast, that's what it's called, an amazing podcast. It helped me a lot on my journey of questioning. And I was listening to it for a long time, although I was kind of going farther away from this whole Christian kind of talk in a way. But, they have people who don't consider themselves Christians anymore. They have people who went away and became atheists and then became believers again. And it's just amazing to hear all these stories and a great encouragement. So, and from your look and how you are nodding, it sounds like you already listened to that podcast.
Yeah, I know them and I really love them. Actually, even today I was listening to a Liturgist podcast. And I have two other ideas, if that's all right with you. Like, if you find yourself in the place where you are still very much a Christian, but you just want to question your evangelical heritage or explore things outside of the evangelical heritage, and you speak German, then there is a really good podcast called Worthaus. It's done mostly by a guy, or most of the talks are done by a guy called Siegfried Zimmer. And I think he's very, very good. He's totally a Christian, but one of his sermons was absolutely life-changing for me. Exactly the sermon about Exodus, and he gave me so much space in my theological thinking. So I would really suggest that you, and they also have a very good talk on die Schwulfrage, so the question about gays. Absolutely brilliant for those people who still are Christians and don't want to leave the faith, but would like to think a bit more openly. So that's one podcast that we spoke about that right before that. We are both podcast junkies. And then one last thing I would recommend in Hungary, at least if you live here, but I guess it's all around the world, or at least Europe. Joining a community, like a gay Christian community, can be very, very good. Like the one that I sometimes go to, not so much these days, is very open, and they've always had people who are of other faiths, or who are atheists, or who are questioning. And so it's they have straight people, they have gay people, lesbians, trans people, and so on and so forth. So if you live in Hungary, I really recommend, this is the Mosaic group. But in other countries of Europe, I think there's such a group in all countries, as far as I know. So that's again something that I really recommend.
Thank you for these recommendations. I will put the links in the podcast descriptions. So thank you so much for being my guest. Before I say goodbye, I want to ask you, is there anything else that you would like to add and I didn't ask you? And it's really important to get it off your chest.
No, I think you had great questions. Simple, but to the point. So I feel very much, I feel there is a wholeness to this conversation. So no, I think I'm fine. And thank you very much. You really made it easy to talk about these things. You created an atmosphere of freedom, I think.
Thank you.
So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you I feel so much appreciation through what you're saying. It's important because I was really down the other day because I was so unhappy with me how I was doing one interview. This happened, so it means a lot. And people sometimes think, oh, he's doing that. He knows he's good, but I don't think that I'm that good. But yeah, I'm more happy with myself now than I was in the beginning. But okay, stop talking about myself. Thank you again for being my guest. Thank you, dear viewers and listeners, for being part of this podcast by listening to it. You can listen to all the other podcasts if there are some other podcasts that you haven't listened to, and we are going now on a break, and so you have some time to go back and catch up and get ready for the next season that will come in September. So, as I said in the beginning, this podcast was made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. Don't forget to support this podcast if you think that this is a good thing that I do through my organization. Help us, support this podcast so I can continue doing them. So, see you actually in a few months' time. Yeah, it's 2 months, about 2 months. You can see all the links that we mentioned in the podcast description. So until September, I wish you all a nice, warm, and relaxing summer without COVID. So until September, bye Mario, and bye everyone at home.
Bye-bye.
Bye.